This is the Tech Phantom, and welcome to episode 10 of this Dark Souls walkthrough. In this walkthrough, we are following and we are telling the tales of Conan in the land of Lordran. Conan has regained about half of his powers. This land, this mysterious and magical land, had sapped him of all of his strengths, and he has spent many hours retraining his body and regaining his strength and his vitality. He doesn't yet have all of the skill, the dexterity that allowed him to wield his sword as a blade master. He still fights in a brutish style, relying more on his massive strength and tanking damage because of his constitution, but he knows that he will have to change his approach as he encounters more dangerous foes as he nears Tulsadum, Lordran. The Wizard of the Mounds has told Conan that he must avenge Ahriman. He must kill Ahriman, yes, yet again. Ahriman was a tremendously powerful dragon. Conan had defeated Ahriman when he was regaining the throne of Aquilonia. Ahriman held the secret of the heart of Ahriman, a powerful jewel that Conan used to defeat the evil sorcerer Saltatun, who had traitorously usurped Conan's throne. It appears that Ahriman's spirit had also sought refuge, just like Tulsadum had sought refuge in Lordran. Upon reaching Lordran, Sultadum had become Lord Win, and Ahriman had sought hiding in the deep sewers and swamps of Lordran. But Conan had been able to sniff out his foul odor, and he was ready to confront this dragon once and for all. Ahriman was but a shadow of his former self. His many years of attacking travelers and living in the dark and swampy sewers had caused him to go blind. He had a very large snout that he used to sniff out his enemies and his prey. And he had grown an extremely long tail that he used to swipe and to attack his foes with. Conan cut the tail, knowing that the tailbone could be used as a very powerful sword, as a weapon. And he proceeded to make quick work of Ahriman by using his renewed strength and invigorating himself further with power within. Well, this had gone very well. Ahriman was no longer He would no longer trouble the world, and the sewers of Lordran were relatively safer than they had been before. In Aquilonia, Tulsadum had sought the lands for the Ayaset. He had finally found the Ayaset, but Conan had stolen it back trying to find Tulsa Doom and trying to get closer to his keep. He called attention to himself by stealing the eye and forcing Lordran Tulsa Doom to come directly after Conan.
Farewell, chosen.
Upon his return to Lordran, the Eye of Set had been lost, and Conan once again followed the same strategy that he had used in Hyboria, to seek out the Eye of Set, or the followers of the Eyes of Set, in order to locate Lordran, Tulsa Doom, his mortal enemy. He talked to Frampt, the giant snake, and certainly a creature not to be trusted. He traded some items with Frampt. He repaired his equipment, and he was ready to move on. He also paid a visit to the Fire Keeper beneath Firelink Shrine to improve his Estus flask so that it could serve him better in battles and in fights. Lordran, I will find you and I will kill you and I will have revenge for my parents. Anger still burned deep and strong within Conan. He would never stop until he found Tulsa Doom. He would go to any worlds, any magical lands, until he finally found and defeated his foe. And he prayed that Chrome would grant him revenge for his siblings and all of the suffering that Tulsa Doom Lordran had caused him. Now that the waters had been drained from Anor Londo, the lower areas were accessible, and Conan decided to walk through the magical door that he had seen when he had found the very large ember that allowed him to sharpen his sword. The Wizard of the Mounds had explained the secret of the Ring of Artorias to Conan. The ring could be used to go into the abyss and to traverse the abyss. The abyss was reigned and lorded over by the Four Kings. The Four Kings were initially aligned with Lordran, and Lordran had given them a part of his soul, a shard of his Lord soul, as a reward in helping him defeat his enemies, the dragons. But someone had tempted the Four Kings with the art of life drain, with the ability to sap somebody's life and add it to their own to increase their power. The Four Kings had become addicted to the art of life drain and had become immense threats to Lordran and to all the inhabitants of Lordran. The Four Kings had become magical creatures with immense swords. They were no longer human. They were more ethereal in nature. And they aided each other in battle. Thanks to the teachings of the Wizard of the Mounds, Conan had been able to find the Four Kings, and he was facing them in pitched battle. He had become used to fighting with poise with the wolf ring, and he found this fight very difficult. He was able to take out the first two of the kings, but additional ones enter the battlefield in succession. They were good users of the blade, but in addition to that, had very many spells and magical attacks. Conan realized that he had been relying on the poise ring a little bit too much. He would need to learn how to dodge attacks better. He would not be aided by the Wolf's Ring ability to prevent stunning and prevent shock during the battle. But things were not going well with the Four Kings. Although fully sharpened, his weapon was not as strong as it could be because it was not wielded with all of the skill that Conan could possess. He was not doing a lot of damage to the Four Kings, and he battled them slowly and bravely. But eventually a missed dodge cost him the opportunity. He died and was sent back to the bonfire. He returned to the abyss in hollow form and decided to quickly regain the loot that he had dropped during the first encounter with the Four Kings before returning back to the bonfire and recovering to human form. He felt stronger and more himself in human form, and he preferred not to be in hollow form, especially when encountering and fighting a dangerous foe like the Four Kings. His first encounter with the Four Kings had clear for him the riddle of the Dark Wraiths. The Dark Wraiths were servants to the Four Kings, and they also possess the art of life drain, but in a much weaker form than the Four Kings. Either the Four Kings or whoever ensnarled the Four Kings initially was responsible for the Dark Wraiths and Four Kings attack on humanity, the attack on any living being that ventured into New Londo. He agreed that the Four Kings were in immense danger and should be terminated and killed, but he still disagreed with the decision that the Remeditions had taken. Instead of killing the Four Kings, confronting them and killing the Four Kings once and forever, they had taken the cowardly route of flooding the entire lands, killing off all of the inhabitants, and sealing the Dark Wraiths and the Four Kings underneath giant masses of water. The Dark Wraiths and the Four Kings did not die. They were just trapped. When Conan had released the lock, he had unleashed the Dark Wraiths and the Four Kings, and now it was his duty to see an end to them. The road to the Four Kings was incredibly dangerous. As he passed through the main gate leading into the Four Kings spiral down to the abyss, he was attacked by a ghost, and he almost died again when the ghost pushed him off an edge. He was going to be more ready for the second confrontation with the Four Kings. He would still have to tank and have to rely on his brute strength and constitution to absorb a lot of the impacts from the Four Kings. But he would also now pay more and better attention to dodging. He could not trade blows with the Four Kings. Their great swords were too powerful and stunned him and left them open to counterattacks. He had to fully dodge the attack, score his own attack, to avoid being stunned and shocked in battle. Such was the ability that the Wolf Ring had afforded him before, but was not available to him, which made the fight much more difficult. He employed the same strategy that he had used before, by buffing himself with the power of fire, power within. The fight with the Four Kings was proving just as difficult as the first time. These were very, very difficult creatures and enemies. And this would be the single toughest encounter and fight that Conan had faced up to now in the land of Dark Souls. He even wondered if he wasn't quite ready to face them at this point, and if he should continue looking for a stronger weapon or improving his skills. But he decided again that that was not the barbarian's way. He would persevere and he would make it through the fight, no matter how many times it took. I am not a coward. I will fight to the end. His buff of power within ended, and he rebuffed himself with a special herb that gave him additional endurance and allowed him to recover his breath more quickly. He had also memorized the attacks and the patterns of the Four Kings and was able to dodge more of their attacks. And he finally scored the winning blow on a fourth king and send these foes to their final grave. As he did so, off in the distance, he spied another snake popping its head through the abyss. He decided to talk to the snake.
Greetings, undead warrior. I am the primordial serpent, Darkstalker Calf. I can guide thee and illuminate the truth. Undead warrior, conqueror of the Four Kings, is this not your wish? To know the truth of men and the undead? A wise choice, undead warrior. Prove you must that the truth becomes you. Seek Anor Londo and claim Gwyn's heirloom, the Lord Vessel. Now, go, undead warrior. Show the world that the truth becomes you.
The great snake was Darkstalker Kath, and he tempted Conan and told them that Lord Wyn's throne could be his, and the way to Lord Wyn, Tulsa Doom, was through the Lord Vessel. Conan also realized when he came face to face with the snake that the eyes of Set were actually the eyes of these snakes, Both Framp and Cat had giant jewels entombed into their eye sockets.